Welcome to the very first album review of 2025. And we're going to start off with Lil Baby, with Wham, also known as Who Hard Is Me. Usually around January, you get a lot of, kind of how it works like with movies, you get a lot of albums that may not really carry that much of long-term kind of listening. Oftentimes I kind of call them more disposable, or sometimes they're not really good projects that come out in January. But this year is a little bit different because we have Mac Miller with Balloonerism, we have The Weeknd with Hurry Up Tomorrow, and now we have Lil Baby with his follow-up from It's Only Me. So, to give a little bit of a rundown as we're into the new year, all of my numbers come from Album of the Year. I may move on to use different analytics as well, like Rate Your Music. I feel like that could be interesting to gather more analytical sides of discussion and what everyone's thinking about the project. Currently, Wham is sitting at a critic score of an 80, which is off of one review and one publication. And then with the user score, it's right dab in the middle of 50%. And coming off of It's Only Me, which has a critic score of a 65 and a user score of a 41, I was really curious to see where Lil Baby was going to go because I'm going to be brutally honest, It's Only Me is one of the most forgettable trap albums. I can't even remember when it was released. I think it was like 2022, somewhere around that range, or maybe even 2023. But it was so incredibly forgettable. It was so bloated, actually, I remember. And the Lil Baby formula was not really panning out on this album. I can remember Never Hating with Young Thug is probably my favorite track on that project. But then he had some moments like Hey on the album. And a lot of the stuff on the album, a lot of the filler tracks were just very, like, typical to be expected Baby tracks. Lil Baby, in my opinion, hasn't really progressed all that much. And with his audience, I don't think they would really expect major progressions. But I feel like these steps are really, really small and minuscule. And it's starting to get to the point where I feel like Lil Baby is starting to fall behind amongst the crowd. He's always going to have listeners. He's always going to have people that are going to follow him around. But when it comes to the interest of the albums, it started to wane on me a little bit. So with Wham, I felt like this could either be a very just forgettable trap project. It could also be very make or break for him when it comes in the long term. And I think with this project, I think it's definitely better than It's Only Me, while still having a healthy amount of problems and a healthy amount of just lack of progression as an artist. So I think the biggest problem that I have with this project is that the features definitely outshine the main artist, which is something that as a main artist you don't really want to happen, but it happens a fair amount of times on Wham, particularly on Dumb Dumb and Dumber when you have Young Thug, especially fresh out of all of the stuff with the court case and all the legal stuff. He's on fire, and then Future is just carrying the momentum from last year. They both just have a lot more captivating performances than Lil Baby does. Once a feature shows up, the features almost completely wipe out Lil Baby's performance. And I feel like Lil Baby doesn't really step up his performance or step up his flow, step up any kind of delivery. It just kind of stays the same throughout most of this project. And when you do get features that kind of add a little bit of spice to the album, they really start to take away all the attention from Lil Baby. And we can even carry it on to Redbone, which features Glorilla. Once Glorilla says that she wants to cut the beat and she's about to go in, it's basically her song at that point. And she also had a really great year last year, and she has a very commanding presence on the mic, especially on the song. And Lil Baby, I think, just doesn't really carry his own weight or carry his own pace to make his part, honestly, really all that interesting. Really, the features carry a lot of portions of the song. Now, I do feel like songs with By Myself with Ralo Rodriguez as well as Rod Wave, I do feel like there's a little bit more chemistry there, especially considering that Ralo Rodriguez has been on a few projects before. And also with Outfit with 21 Savage and Stuff with Travis Scott. I feel like those few batches of songs with features are actually good chemistry-based tracks, especially Outfit with 21 Savage. It is so skeletal, it is so minimal, it is so dark. And I feel like with Lil Baby's more melodic flow and kind of the flow that he keeps on throughout the project. It's a nice bit of contrast, and then 21 Savage just brings a really just cold performance as he always does. And with Travis Scott on stuff, he's just amazing melodically, and he really just transports you with his vocal performances. So that's one of the big problems I have with this project. And it's also a kind of an overarching problem that Lil Baby has had where he just keeps bringing the same roster of features over and over and over again. And it kind of makes the album experiences just that much more like not interesting, because you when you come to a Lil Baby project now, I'm going to expect 21 Savage, I'm going to expect Young Thug, I'm going to expect these artists that have been strung along with these projects for honestly quite a few years now. And I think Lil Baby needs to broaden his horizons working with different artists. But there is some more interesting parts of the project that we're going to talk about as well. So I Promise has a very interesting problem. And it's kind of the same thing. It's not on here, but Drug Talkin' also has the problem. The beat sounds like it's going to be a lot more up tempo and a lot more on a higher pace. And I'm thinking of like Features of Wants and Needs, where Lil Baby and also Prize of the Devil with J. Cole, he can really step up his pace. And I feel like that's where he can really start to differentiate himself. And he can do a fast flow and make it engaging and interesting. I feel like with songs like I Promise and Drug Talking, the beats are fast paced and more on tempo, but his flow is not. And what happens is once this beat starts, you start to get interested, but once Lil Baby starts rapping, it sounds just a little bit too slow, and all engagement and all investment for me is gone because it doesn't really pick up the pace. It doesn't really bring anything interesting, and it's not really like Lil Baby is offering anything interesting lyrically as well to really warrant the slower flow. With that kind of higher pace, I really wish that Lil Baby would kind of keep up with the pace or try to maintain it, because it would make for some more engaging material and some more engaging songs for Lil Baby on this project. Those are some two big problems. And I think, as I said before, Lil Baby just really isn't advancing all that much, and it's very much his sound at this point. But I do think, especially a few albums in, I just really was hoping for some kind of interesting kind of flows or maybe some more interesting production, but we really don't get that. Now, this album is only 41 minutes long. It is better than It's Only Me. There is, I think, a little bit of more interesting production. I can think of Free Promo that has a little bit more of kind of this marching band, kind of collegiate kind of feel to it that I think is actually pretty interesting. And overall, I think there is some moments on here that are just decent trap songs that they can throw into a playlist. They will work perfectly well there. And that's really all that I can really mention about this project. While it is not like bad, it's not really all that good either. Now, honestly, that 50% is pretty fair. I would probably go as to say that my rating for it is more of a 4 out of 10 in my honest opinion. There's some moments, but a lot of it feels like we've gone through this cycle before. The features carry this project. Lil Baby is not really changing up much of anything with this project. And we're already getting a deluxe with this thing, so this should be interesting. And also, not to mention too, with Dumb Dumb and Dumber, I believe that trying to think, Lil Baby is doing a project, I think, either with Young Thug or with Future, or all three of them are going to get involved in a project. So I think that collaboration, that project, if that does happen to exist and come out, that will be possibly the moment that Lil Baby may be able to differentiate himself and make some a little bit more interesting kind of music to this point. But for right now, I feel like Lil Baby's just kind of stuck in the mud, and he's not really trying to get out of said mud to make some more outstanding kind of trap music that he was really going on a really great trajectory going into the 2020s and the early 2020s as well. So that is my review of Lil Baby's Wham. What are your thoughts on it? Do you like it? Do you kind of feel the same way where it's just kind of okay? Do you absolutely hate it? Let me know what your comments are on the below. And thank you very much for watching. And here's to the content in 2025. Peace out.